The Monty and the Pharaoh Show is brought to you by...
Because wine is your second favorite four-letter word. California wine, New York attitude. Good fucking wine.
Yeah.
I've been watching or listening to Vince Russo. I know, a little shocker. I'm a little shocked myself. Today, I don't know. Last week we spoke about podcasts. Now he was calling out, people like Brian Alvarez, Denise Salcedo. You know what Denise Salcedo is?
No, can't say I do.
Jimmy, I gotta get you up to par here. So,
okay.
The reason I'm saying that, because again, we speak about this all the time. It is somewhat of a competition. At least I hope we're still trying to compete. Denise Salcedo is probably your old girl. She's a fan, just like us. All good. She's got this tremendous following. She's on Busted Open, and like Brian Sapp and Alvarez, Sportskeeda, they're all trying to bring her in because she has all these followers, dude. And
okay,
Russo was talking about all these podcasts about people are fans who do them, but they were never in the business. And he basically was telling people, look, you could listen to, but you're just listening to a fan and their opinion. And I started thinking about that, right? I was like, does someone who never put on a uniform, Jimmy, know about the sport? Take it out even out of wrestling, right? Do they have legitimate knowledge of the sport that they should be respected and taken seriously? And if you want to keep it to wrestling, keep it to wrestling.
Well, I can't keep it to wrestling because the first thing I think about is when Boomer Esiason, the former great Bengals quarterback, and then later on with the Jets, he always says that we don't have a clue what we're talking about because we never played football, so we don't know. And right away, Mike Francesa comes into my mind. Now, whether people are a fan of Mike Francesa or not, I don't care. That doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is Mike Francesa is a sports machine. He knows everything about it. He understands it. His analogies are well thought out. He's intelligent, whether you like him or not. He has a great understanding of the business. Just because you never were a wrestler doesn't mean that you don't understand what goes on. I don't have to eyewitness. We've talked to over 100, getting probably closer to hundreds now, of guys who were in the business, and they have certainly filled in a lot of our questions. I think I have a pretty decent idea how the business goes. We've seen it on independent house shows. We've known independent wrestlers. We've seen the different levels. You'll never have that actual wrestler experience if you never wrestled, and I completely respect and understand that. But to say we don't know anything, well, that's kind of ignorant, especially considering we're the ones who put the money in your pocket. If we didn't know what it was about, we wouldn't be paying for it.
I wanted to ask you that because I'm kind of torn on it. You understand where I'm kind of torn on, right?
Okay, spell it out.
If you didn't play the game, what you watched is my point. Jimmy, hold on 1 second because now I want the chat to answer this question. So,
okay.
Lucis. Just hold on, because he's just a jerk. Good God, I hate myself, Jimmy, sometimes.
Jesus Christ.
One day I'll be a good producer. How about that? Shut up, man. Okay.
Angry Monty.
You can weigh in here, too, so
yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to rear you. So Loose writes, Denise Salcedo is a hottie. And RJ Hudson says, you're right, Luce. Now, I got her on the screen. I don't know if you could see her. She's not a bad-looking girl. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know if she's a hottie. You tell me, Jimmy.
Okay, let me spell it out for you. Is the face that I'm looking at, the real question is the face I'm looking at enough to make me flock like sheep to hear her opinion on wrestling? I'm going to go with a big fat
Yes,
N-O.
good.
How's
Okay,
that
how
sound?
come?
How come? Because I don't care. I don't care what her
I love it,
opinion
but
is.
how come?
I, I can't even explain it. How's that? It's just a gut feeling. I'd rather listen to Bubba Ray talk all day long. I don't need to be. You know
All
what?
right.
I'll go. I'll go further. I'll
Okay,
go
so
further.
now this is where I'm challenging you.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Here's what I challenge. We discussed whether you played the sport, you have a right to speak about it. I think you agreed that a fan
Yeah,
or coach or someone who's done something can speak to a sport. But
sure.
now I pop up Denise Salcedo, and what you say to me is, if that's her, why do I want to listen to some fan girl talk about wrestling? So now I got to kind of corner you. I want you to explain.
Well,
Explain, Lucy.
there's nothing to be cornered about. You asked me what I thought of the comments from the chat. The chat was commenting on her looks.
Right.
I made an observation on, are those looks enough for me to just blindly tune in to get her opinion? And my answer was no. Okay. Now, as far as what she's got to say about wrestling, I've never heard her. So I would have to sit and listen to her before I can give you that answer. You understand? Consider the rat out of the corner. All right. Because again, I answered what the people were observing on the chat. All right. I answered that. All
Gotcha.
right. As far as what she goes, I've never heard her. I've got no idea if she's interesting or not. So I ask you, is she a good listen, or is she the one that you told me about when you were with Mrs. M, where she was like, could you please turn this woman off? Her voice is annoying the shit out of me. Is that the one?
That is the one. That is the one.
Okay. So I ask you, since you have heard her, you've seen her and heard her, is she good?
So I'm having a midlife crisis wrestling podcasting deal,
Okay.
and I'm being honest, man. Okay, I am.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
I'll tell you why. I think I know what's good, but like I tell you, I see these shows out there, and I'm shocked that people are watching.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to name shows. It's just getting old because I just keep going back complaining about the same shit. Okay?
Right.
So, again, Lou says the picture I showed was not giving her justice. So here's another one. So notice a few things. No nails, okay? In fact, those hands look hacked up like they were in a meat chopper. I'm being serious here. Is she a bad-looking girl? No, she's not a bad-looking girl, Jimmy. But like you said, like I'm not flocking like sheep to go listen to this ditz talk about wrestling. And I got to tell you, on the talent level, she's a ditz. Now, I'm sure when people watch this tonight, tomorrow, they're going to like, who's calling Denise a ditz, this fat, bald guy? I believe myself, I believe you have 10 more talent in our pinky than that. So my point was, okay, she must be good looking, right? Because that's got to be the attraction. She's got to be hot, right? I mean, let's be honest here. And I'm not trying to be a sexist, but a lot of these women that do these wrestling podcasts, they're always doing it with three things. That do it with their face and the two things sitting on their chest hanging out as they're telling you about Finn Balor playing, a video game.
Right.
I mean, I know,
That's
Jimmy,
fair.
you don't always watch this stuff. You go to the more artsy stuff, but and when I mean artsy stuff, I mean stuff like that. Guys that are putting a lot of stuff behind it, right? You're a big fan of the What a Day Joe Lowry show, I believe, right?
Yeah, like if I was a fan of anal disease, I would be a fan of the Joe Lowry show. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I had to throw that in there. But I guess my point is, she's all right. So wait a minute. All right, hold on. Jason says, Lou says, Denise's talents are no threat at all. No sweat. Thanks, Luce. Luce is always very nice to me. Jason Morning, who is she? I missed the beginning of the conversation. Jason, it's basically this, is that Vince Russo was on complaining that if you're a wrestling fan and you're listening to fans talking about wrestling, that's fine, but you're really just listening to fans talk about wrestling that weren't in the industry. And the question I brought up to Jimmy was, does someone who's not in the industry of wrestling, and let's not leave it wrestling, baseball, football, basketball, if you know channels like ESPN, Fox, Fox Sports, they're bringing more and more females onto it, right? Because the general audience is men, like most of us, and we like to watch attractive females. But if you talk to my father, he doesn't feel that women have any right to speak about men's sports. I mean, it's kind of an old school thought. I honestly feel that you can learn stuff just like you can learn politics, you can learn science, you
Right.
can learn
Right.
social, you can learn history.
Right.
Jimmy, what are your thoughts?
Mike, let me put it this way, just in case anybody reads me the wrong way, and I would like to think you'll agree with what I have to say, so I want to make sure nobody reads either of us the wrong way. I'll use an example going back to my dad, and I will never forget it. There was a football game. It was the late 70s. And out of nowhere, I hear my father, who never cursed. He's staring at the set, and he goes, "What the fuck is she talking to me about football for?" And I was like, "What is he watching?" And I walked in, and standing there was Phyllis George. Phyllis George was the first of what we see many of today. Okay, Phyllis George did not know the first thing about football. She really didn't belong there. My father was right about that. It's like, what are you even doing here? Why are you talking to me about this stuff? You're just a prop. And that's what insulted my father. Now, years later, when Susan Waldman came around to do Yankee games, my father wasn't offended by her. My father was like, wow, she knows her stuff. She's really good. And if I can use a wrestling analogy, Renee Young, she's great. She's great. Okay? Either you come across as a prop or you come across as genuine. When I sense that you've just been placed there so you could flash your boobs and talk to me about something you can see through the performance, that you don't know anything about it and you're just a prop to look pretty on the camera, I don't have any use for you. I want to hear from Susan Waldman. I want to hear from Renee Young. I never wanted to hear from Phyllis George. I agree with my dad. So it's not being sexual towards them. It's just, if you're right for the job, I salute you. If you've just been placed as a prop, you insult me. How's that sound?
Well done, Jimmy. I mean, it's a great explanation. You come
Got
off,
nothing to. Yeah.
PC, which is very good. I will say, again, I understand why people like Renee Young. Me personally, I've just never been a fan. I don't know why.
I think she's great.
But that's just
I think
mine.
she's great. She
That's
comes
just mine.
across genuine. She comes across genuine to me. She's excellent at what she does. She always was, and she comes across like she truly loves it and lives it, because she does. I love Renee Young. I think Renee Young's everything that's right about having a female commentator. Everything that's right about it. She's way better than plenty of guys I've heard do commentary, just in case anybody wants to run liberally ballistic on us. All right? I mean, it's really about whether you're genuine or not, whether you really belong in the role you have. So, as far as this person goes that started this whole conversation, I'll listen to her. I'll let you know. But as far as looks go, let me tell you, and I think you know me by now, she could have been a 10, and I still wouldn't have fucking flocked. I still wouldn't have, because that's
Wow.
not how I was raised. I wasn't raised that way. I'm after what's on the inside. Sure, it helps to look good on the outside. I'm not going to be a fucking bullshit artist, but I'm really after what's on the inside with everybody, in general. I can't say much more than that, brother.
What do you thought IWC? And if you don't know what that means, Jimmy, I'll give it to you.
What, the internet wrestling community?
The internet wrestling community. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, it's just like an asshole. Everybody's got an opinion, and most of them stink. I mean, I stay away from most of it. I do. Because people read almost everything as just pure truth when they read off the internet. Oh, it must be true. Nay, I wasn't raised like that. I was warned from an early age to not just believe everything I'm told, but at the same time, I've kept my principles intact where I'm not, asking for statues to be removed. You understand what I'm saying? So it's just, I think for myself, but I also know what's important as far as that goes.
I want to go back to Russo a little bit because I was just thinking about you and me, right?
Yeah.
He was just talking about like everybody, right? And they're just fans.
Right.
And
Well, that's a crock
and
of
then
shit, by the way.
you have the
That,
people that watch it that have their opinions
yeah.
on the internet
Right.
wrestling community. Um,
Right.
do you think podcasting in all genres, forget about just wrestling, but we'll stick to wrestling because we're a wrestling podcast. Do you think it's become too competitive?
Is too much competition a bad thing, Mike? I'm asking you.
No,
Is too much?
no, it's not. It's not.
Okay.
It's not.
Okay.
Right.
It's just where we're at nowadays. I mean, anyone and everyone can do it. Look, we had guests come in who had never entertained the notion, saw us doing it, just fans, by the way, saw us doing it and ran off to do their own. All right. So, I mean, we're just in a day and age where anybody can have a show. So I guess when you open up Pandora's box, you cannot be surprised that all these snakes came flying out of it.